Let's cut the bullshit. We've got straight up marketing advice. You should use it.
Just drop the jargon.
Adam and Simon's Bullshit Busters.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Adam and Simon Bullshit Busters. I'm Simon Batchelor.
I'm Adam Bastock.
And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the big question of, is this new Apple announcement the beginning of the end of Facebook ads? So this sounds like a very big, lofty claim, and some of you may be aware that Apple have made an announcement recently about how they're going to be changing some of their privacy settings on their phones. And this is going to have a big, big impact for Facebook ads. So, Adam, do you want to start off by just giving us a kind of non-tech summary of what Apple's announcement is all about?
Yeah, I'll do my best. So this is kind of to paint the scene a little bit. Where this is coming from is around the concerns of privacy and a lot of Apple's shift towards kind of privacy as their kind of USP or selling point and their kind of brand identity, I guess, to a certain extent. In practical terms, what it means is that digital tracking, in that sense of going from Facebook through to another website, the tracking between those two entities is becoming opt-in rather than opt-out. So what that means is that for the majority of people, you are not going to be automatically tracked between those two visits. That sounds kind of great from a customer point of view because it means that you're not going to get all those annoying remarketing ads appearing everywhere. From a business point of view, it's a very annoying thing because it means you're not going to get all those remarketing ads everywhere. I think that's my kind of initial summary of it. The details are still coming out and it's still kind of ongoing. So this is going to be changing and this isn't kind of gospel. This might, there's still going to be a lot of nuance to work through on this, but at a very broad level, it's around privacy and it means that e-commerce tracking isn't going to be as kind of omnipotent as it currently is.
Yeah, and I think also just to add another bit of clarity to that, when we say remarketing ads, we mean when you look at, let's say, some Wellington boots on a website and then you go onto another website and you see those same boots pop up in another ad saying, would you like to buy this? That is a remarketing ad. It's not just for e-commerce though. Businesses use it all across the internet. So when you go to a brand's website, you may then see adverts about that brand, about their story, about how they add value. It's one of the techniques that we talk about as part of Marketing Success Club and the coaching I do. And as also part of the digital marketing agency, we have many, many clients that use remarketing ads and also just generally targeted Facebook ads. There's a lot of things that you can target on Facebook ads. Those of the listeners who have tried Facebook ads will know just quite how much detail you can go into with Facebook ads. It is their entire business model. So this announcement from Apple is obviously a real slap in the face because essentially this is a big technology platform provider taking the first step, probably of many, in saying, actually, do you know what? We are not going to just automatically send you this information. And the way that, I guess some of the kind of hype and scaremongering around what this announcement is has come up from the fact of the words Apple are using in the pop-up. That's what really started this whole thing, because Apple are obviously making this sound a lot worse for the user than Facebook would like. So I feel like essentially this isn't a podcast where we want to scaremonger or build on this hype, but what we wanted to do was have a bit of a discussion around the fact that actually thinking about this retargeting and business models beyond Facebook's into small businesses, maybe small app firms, small tech firms whose business model does rely on these ads. Is this the beginning of the end of that business model? Because this is the second step Apple have taken against Facebook, and they've got another one coming for Google, where they're going to make Google not the default search engine on OS devices, which is partly where a lot of Google's dominance comes from. So, thinking about this, Adam, have you got any thoughts on the sort of the beginning of a trend developing, would you say, with sort of privacy and tracking?
I think there's been a lot of rumours, especially from Apple over the past couple of years in this direction. There's some rumours they're developing their own search engine as well, which obviously has kind of, in the SEO community, raised questions and kind of curiosity around what that's going to look like. So there's two elements to this. One is kind of Apple selling it as a privacy thing, and it looks quite good from a consumer point of view in that you are then protected against these evil businesses who are trying to follow you around and kind of sell you things. The other side of it is then Apple getting more control over your data and basically blocking it from being used from external sites. So if they are using you if you are using their own search engine, if that is a thing, and the only person that kind of has access to your tracking data and history is Apple, I think that's perhaps a separate podcast and conversation to have. But I think it's not as kind of clear cut as it is. To take it back to digital marketing, I think the way we're seeing this going is not going to stop. I think the trend is definitely going that way. There's been enough concerns and stories around privacy in various guises, whether it's WhatsApp's updates recently, which we've seen, or through to just general kind of online hygiene of digital marketing and kind of what that looks like for consumers and kind of at a broader level. I don't think this is going to go away. I think it's going to develop. How it's going to develop, we don't know yet, and it's very difficult to paint that.
Yeah.
To stop using big kind of grand words and to kind of rambling on, which I realise I'm doing now, I think from a business owner point of view, the concern here is you don't own the data that you think you might own. You are using Facebook ads. Therefore, you are using a Facebook ads tool. That is not your doing. So be very wary of kind of where your customers are coming from at the minute, because in the future you might not be able to track that. And kind of secondary and more worse than that is that you don't own kind of where they're coming from, and therefore there's much more limited control over what you can do if your kind of defined source of customers disappears.
I think that's a really good point, because the number of businesses I meet who have a website and then they have Facebook ads, and that's it when it comes to marketing. And essentially, if Facebook ads stops being measurable, obviously they've got a decision: do we keep putting money into it even if we can't measure that? I mean, although initially it's just going to be iPhone users won't be trackable, which for most people is a very slim slice of their traffic. But still, it's if that starts to grow, if that goes to iPads, then to all Apple devices, which it could quite feasibly do within the next 6 months to a year, does that actually then mean that Facebook ads just isn't measurable and therefore is less attractive? Now, as you were saying, because you don't own that data, obviously you're paying Facebook for that traffic to come in. It's like, I think we talk a lot about owned and bought traffic, and Facebook ads are bought traffic. And owned traffic is where you do a search on any search engine and arrive on a website organically without needing an ad, and that is the strongest and most reliable source of traffic, because it's only really sort of jumps around a little bit in the search results depending on what people search for and their connection to you. But ultimately, organic SEO traffic is really powerful and is fairly sort of solid in terms of the traffic. But if you're using any form of ads, then obviously that's a paid luxury traffic, because it only works while the platform works. Now, the other way you could do this is obviously if you've got a mailing list, for example. You own that mailing list. Even if you've got it on Drip or MailChimp or Klaviyo, that's fine. It's on a platform, yes. But ultimately, you can take that list away and use it somewhere else. So you still own that data. And I think the businesses that are shouting the loudest at the moment about this Facebook announcement all have all of their eggs in one basket, and that is the Facebook ads basket. So if you're in that position, then this is where you may need to start broadening your horizons. But if you've got three or things in play at the moment, then this just reinforces why that's important.
I think there's a really good kind of quote here, which I'm not sure who it's attributed to, but it's the whole build a brand, not a business. Because I think it's a really good demonstrator of why you can build a business on Facebook ads alone, but you can't really build a brand on Facebook ads alone. So if you took an example of, say, drop shipping, that's quite a common one where the tactics are you find some products that someone else will basically deliver for you, and as long as you can advertise at less than the kind of profit margin on those items, you will make money. So a lot of dropshippers will be spending a lot of money on Facebook ads as a way to kind of get to market, because they can't. It's much quicker to do that than it is to do Google ads or to do Google search or PR and stuff. As soon as a change like this happens, their business will disappear overnight. Whereas if you have built a brand and you have kind of used Facebook as one source of 5 different sources of traffic, where, okay, well, once people do come to your website and find you, they are then, put into an email list, which then you're kind of nurturing and building them out on, or they're reading content on your site that they're finding through Google search, or they're reading about you in a magazine because you've taken out some PR work or digital PR work, and they're finding you from, Wired magazine or from House and Country or wherever it might be. That kind of spread, even if any one of those disappears, you've still got the other 3 or 4 to kind of hold you in place. Whereas something like dropshipping, where you're doing it all on one kind of quick result marketing channel, as soon as that disappears, you don't have a business.
Yeah,
So
I think that's really important to note, because you're right. If you put all of your effort and time into developing one thing, yes, you might get some quick results. They're expensive results, but if you can make a margin on it, that's great, and a lot of people do. So I feel like it feels like the kind of announcement that is quite important, in the sense that for a lot of businesses, it should be a chime to reflect on maybe where your traffic's coming from, where your risk is in your marketing, but also your risk in your customer acquisition. So, obviously with the lockdown we've had, that put an end to face-to-face networking. I mean, we all had to learn how to network on Zoom. So suddenly people were like, oh my God, all my business is gone. I don't get to meet people anymore. We've all had to pivot. If you're currently heavily relying on ads, then maybe you need to start looking at diversifying. So I think really, if I was to sort of summarize the announcement, it's like, it's probably the first of many steps that are going to make the effectiveness of tracked advertising decrease. I don't see that getting more and more strong or effective over time. I think probably the opposite. And I think the businesses who adjust now to own more of their marketing, to own more of their traffic and customer acquisition, will outlast any mixture of announcements that may follow. What's your sort of summary thoughts on it, Adam?
I think I agree there, and I think the point you made about this year with COVID having the impact is, nothing is certain. Things will come out of anywhere, and the businesses that can adapt and have kind of got those mitigation strategies already built into their business will survive much better. So, if you've got a real good mix of your customer base coming from referrals, from kind of branded work, from Facebook and Google Ads, and they're all being used as tools to kind of amplify your business rather than as sole contributors to your business, you're going to be in a much better place long term, no matter what happens, really. Because as you say, anything could happen. If Google disappears tomorrow, which I don't think it will do, but if it does, then if people still know your brand and still know your website, they'll still be able to find you. Whereas if you're only doing SEO work, then that's going to be a high risk as well. So I think plan for uncertainty and just make sure that you're doing as much empathetic marketing with your customers as possible.
Yeah.
Would be my summary.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I think that brings us neatly to a close on this discussion for now. We'll definitely be back for more with updates as the situation develops, as they say on the news. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, then do hit a subscribe button near you, if that happens to be on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. Then do give us a subscribe. That would be really wonderful if you could. If you know any other small business owners who you think might need to hear this update, then do forward it on to them. We'd love you to share the episodes. So thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.